Hello, everyone. It's me. It's currently almost 2 o'clock in the morning. You may be wondering what I'm doing. I was working on something kind of important, but then I remembered wait, no, nothing is more important than updates to the Japanese version of the Kingdom Hearts mobile game. And so here we are. Some new story updates came out for Kingdom Hearts Union Cross in Japan. The reason that we're doing this, since typically I don't cover this game directly, the reason that we're here today is because this story update has the potential to be the first time that the plot of the mobile game has moved forward in about 3 years. And considering that it took the original browser version of the game about 3 years to accomplish anything, we're coming around to actual things happening in the story now. They can no longer just tiptoe around. They actually have to have things occur because Kingdom Hearts 3 is coming out relatively soon. So I'm sure that whatever this update contains is just going to suddenly, out of nowhere, be eventful and things are going to happen. It should be just wonderful, he said, with wild amounts of sarcasm. This was the little thing they released to tease, hey, look, new story stuff is coming. As the gentleman on Reddit kindly explains, main story edition. Story connected to Kingdom Hearts 3. To which my response is, if the story of this game isn't connected to Kingdom Hearts 3, I really thought that was the whole reason we were playing it. We really don't need the reassurances. That's why we're here. I really appreciate this image just because it drives home really well just how irrelevant life is and how pointless it is to even try sometimes. I don't understand what's going on here with the headroom and the eye lines. Like, it isn't even a matter of where their necks stop. He's like way lower. His shoulders are like, her neck is longer than his because his shoulders are higher than hers, but his neck is still ending lower than hers. Their eyes should be on the same level. I don't know. I just appreciate this because it's like, how could anybody possibly take either of these guys at this point, but especially this guy, seriously now? Like, once upon a time, I took both of these characters seriously as villains, but this image just kind of perfectly encapsulates why that's irrelevant now. So for those who are not aware, I'm not going to recap the entire story of the browser game, but something that's very interesting about the structure of the browser game, and I should say, to be clear, the browser game and the phone game, because they are both the same game and not the same game. But essentially, the original Japan-only browser game that no longer exists told one story that had like a beginning, middle, and end. At the time, I was frustrated with the browser game for its seeming complete lack of interesting characters and a comprehensible plot and no closure towards the end. Now I realize that these were nitpicks and that actually I was actually completely overlooking the luxury of having a beginning, middle, and end, kind of. A sequence of events that proceeded in a straightforward manner where if you observed the one piece of media all the way through, you kind of saw things happen. I now realize that it was foolish of me to ever make fun of the browser version of the game, because the cell phone version of the game that's out now, first of all, makes no sense if you haven't played the browser game. So even if you are in Japan, you can't play the browser game anymore, so you better have played it when you could. And if you're outside of Japan, well, then I guess you're just going to have to look up somebody else's translated YouTube videos of the browser game, huh? Because basically, in the browser game, there was a point where there was a major time skip, essentially. Basically, a bunch of stuff happened, and then there was a time skip, and war happened, and that was the end of the story, right? Okay. Now, in the phone game, initially it seemed that the phone game was just a port of sorts, like with some new features and the gameplay mixed up slightly, but it seemed that it was simply porting the events of the browser game. But as time progressed, the reality of the situation revealed itself to us. As the story went on, we started getting to the point where the browser game had been, and more fluff started getting forced into the story. While simultaneously, the player character was seeing flash forwards to the war, the conclusion of the browser game. Also, the audience, not the main character, but the audience began to see scenes with characters after the war, which means that if you're playing the the cell phone version of the game and don't know what happened in the browser version of the game, you are essentially seeing flash forwards to events taking place after a climax that you have not observed, talking about events that you haven't seen and have no real context to follow along with. It's really just genius. Very avant-garde, I believe is the term. However, the secret ending of the browser version of the game, the post-credits scene, involved the main character seemingly spilling forth into the present day, where Maleficent was discussing that old rapscallion Sora. Now, the entire problem with the initial Chi game, Kai, Key, whatever, on browsers was the question of where does this actually take place in the timeline? Is this taking place in the distant past, or is this taking place in some kind of simulation of the past inside of a magic book that can see the future? And we really didn't know for sure, especially when our protagonist suddenly spilled forth into what appeared to be the present day. Things became further muddled when we realized that in the browser version of the phone version of the game, you were not actually playing through the same events as the mobile game. You were not playing through the same events as the browser game. You were in fact playing through a recreation of the events from the browser game, because in the mobile game, you are actually playing through a sequence of events that is occurring after the war happened, where the player character and many other characters have been put into some kind of, as of yet, unelaborated upon state of stasis, where they can forget that the war ever happened and lead normal lives, kind of. We don't need to get into it in more detail than that right now. Suffice to say, it's all been very straightforward and easy to understand. But as I say, the reason that something might actually happen now is because here we have a main story event featuring Maleficent. Maleficent has appeared in the mobile version of the game so far, but she only appeared in the capacity of just the generic stock villain of Sleeping Beauty related missions. It was clearly the future projection of her, created holographically by the Book of Prophecy, not the actual real version of Maleficent, who we spied at the ending of the browser game. So if you're playing the cell phone game and have not played the browser game, then we can assume that this is the second version of Maleficent that you will have seen, and you will have no context with which to say, oh, well, this is the Maleficent who appeared in the secret ending of the browser game, who is clearly in the present day. You're just going to think that this is the same Maleficent that you saw when you played the Sleeping Beauty story missions. I assume. I really don't know for sure. But we're going to watch now and find out together. And hopefully there will be lots to laugh at. So here we are on Everglow's YouTube channel. I've plugged him a couple of times before. He's kind of the go-to Kingdom Hearts guy if you want to just see cutscenes from all the different games, and in addition to that, see translated uploads of the missions from the browser game and the cell phone game. In fact, if you have not played the cell phone game and do not wish to, at present the best alternative to this is to watch the Timeline series that he is creating, which is basically all of the events of the series put together in something at least vaguely resembling chronological order. Now, part of the problem is that Union Cross is not finished yet, so at some point Everglow is going to have to go back and shove more stuff in there, I guess. I don't know exactly what his plan is to deal with that. But if you want to see everything that has happened so far in the back cover stuff and the cheese stuff and the Union Kai Cross reconnect stuff, you can do that by watching his little series. But anyway, so yeah, this is the thing. This is Kingdom Hearts, guys. This is where Still, as of yet, completely unexplained. What are corridors of life? Still, as of yet, completely unexplained as a school. Look, it's Ava and Lucius. Still haven't seen it in its entirety, even though it happened 3 years ago. Anyway, we'll skip over the character management stuff and get straight into the heart of the issue, shall we? Hit me with it. Hello, Maleficent. I remember you. Why? Oh, she's all hurt. Or she's just angry, I don't know. Why can't I change the ending? Because you've known that you came from the past. Because you've known that you came from the past. Okay, interesting. Who's there? Show yourself. Is it Master Xehanort or what? Is it missing no? What is that? It's bees! It's the pain! You see, that's not something I can do. I can control bees!
In fact, for the rest of this video, let's replace the word darkness with bees, and it'll make exactly as much sense.
I am bees. That's some people are gonna. Was it bees? What was the joke in that video? So this is basically Kingdom Hearts video. They replaced the word darkness with bees, right? Okay. I promise I haven't watched this yet. That was just a wild coincidence. Look, it's the pain. I am bees. Bees. That's pretty vague. I love that. Wait, did Maleficent just say, your darkness? That's pretty vague. Shut up, Maleficent. Your scheme is pretty simple, Maleficent. Going back to worlds of the past, trying to write over their losses. Oh, right over the losses. And trying to gather the 7 pure hearts of light. Okay. Yeah, sounds about right. But I thought you wanted a book now. We did the 7 Princesses of Heart thing in the first game. Then she wanted a castle and revenge. Then she wanted a computer. Now she wants a book. Now she wants the princesses again. It all comes full circle until in Kingdom Hearts 3 when she's gonna want a box. However, falsifying history. Why am I? I guess it's showing that it's 2 o'clock in the morning, right? However, falsifying history should not be left to one as ignorant as you. One can travel back to the past in which one previously existed. Indeed, they can. In order to do so, you must... Excuse me. In order to do so, you must divide your body and heart at that time. Those are the rules for moving through time. When I stopped doing the pen, I should continue doing the pain's voice. You thought of it. Why are we still here? Just to suffer? Oh, you thought of it when you were stabbed by the Keyblade of that boy that you thought you were controlling. That's right, gang. Back in Kingdom Hearts 1, when Maleficent got stabbed, she thought this... When Riku turned around and stabbed her in the chest, her first thought was, great, now I can time travel. I just want the pain to stop. What is with these goofballs? Oh, this is so dumb. Why is this so dumb? I love everything about this. This is just fantastic. I have no complaints. I have no complaints. You were told about it by an old Keyblade master. What is with the headroom on this guy? This is Cinema 101. What is with the headroom? How's my headroom looking, actually? Mine's okay. I'm managed properly. And thought, why don't I use the... Hold on, I need to read this later. You were told about it by an old... Wait, so he not only told Maleficent about the 7 Princesses of Heart, but he also told her about time... How did he know that she was gonna be that important? And thought, why don't I use the laws of time... How long has this been going on for? So you've seen through everything. In the fact that you exploited that law and came to the past, of course the Master knows, because in the real world before the Keyblade War, you had yet to create the world of Enchant. Maleficent created. Not only did she create Enchanted Dominion, she created a world. I'm so glad I thought about watching this and I was like, maybe I should film it. There's probably gonna be some nonsense. This is more than I could have possibly hoped for. Oh, please give me more. How dull. It's only creating them. So you've caught me in a trap. I really don't, whatever. This is great. Before the Keyblade War, the Keyblade wielders. Yeah, these are the worlds that you go to in the game. Defeated dark beings and gathered the light. In the worlds of future light described by the Book of Prophecies. It's not, hey, remember kids, it's not unethical if you're just stealing from your future children. If you steal from people in the future and bring the resources to the past, but the future is going to inherit those resources, it's not stealing. After the Keyblade War, the Master and the... Hold on a second. Hold on. The whole point of the backstory of Kingdom Hearts is that it was a world engulfed with light and overflowing with light, and people loved the light, and there was so much of it, and they started fighting. I could talk for hours about how the original pitch of what the Keyblade War was about has nothing to do with what Union Cross is about. But I'm specifically going to point out these worlds are the worlds of light. These are places with more... Why would these places have more light resources in a world that is supposedly like... What? Why do I bother? I mean, I do care, obviously. And the Keyblade War... Make sure I didn't miss anything here. Yeah, the light described in the Book of Prophecies in the future. Okay. Yeah. And after the Keyblade War, the Master and the Foretellers disappeared. Okay, the Master disappeared well before the Keyblade War, but that's fine. And the remnants of sadness from the Keyblade Rovers left behind. And Everglow's a trooper for translating all this. Were written to be tales of vivid adventure. And the remnants of sadness from the Keyblade Rovers left. Oh, okay, I see. Really, it was tragic, but we wrote it up as if they were awesome awesome stories. Okay, so got it. All right. However, in a world without the Master or the Foretellers, one cannot draw out worlds from the Book of Prophecies. The data of those worlds... Make sure I understood that. Hold on. World without the Master and Foretellers, one cannot draw worlds out from the Book of Prophecies. Yeah. The data of those worlds was created and fixed. Whatever, that's not that anything. I can show you the world, shining, shimmering, splendid. The unfinished parts were still included. The unfinished parts are still included in those real worlds too. Hold on. I'll just let it roll. I hope that doesn't mean what I think it means. That's why I said it was dumb. This means this isn't an actual world, is it? That's right. This world isn't above the world line of the... Is this turning into Steins Gate now? This world isn't above the world line of the real world. Okay. Alright, okay. when they said those worlds the worlds are unfinished, I thought they were saying that when these future projections of the world were created, they were not full, proper future replications of the worlds, and that the real worlds, hundreds of years in the future, reflected those imperfections, like somehow the simulacrums of them in the past had altered their futures, but that's not what that meant. They were just saying that these versions here in whatever lesser realm this is aren't complete. Okay, whatever. This is a data world in which the story has already been written. But then that's no different from the real world, because in the real world, time travel doesn't let you change anything either. So what's the difference? So you can't change data and you can't change through time travel. Okay, they're going to introduce some new way of changing the story, I'm sure. It is locked so that it cannot be overwritten. You were feeling my power. This is a new low, by the way. This the bee man up here. This is a new low of identity obscuring This is ridiculous. I can't believe that they literally just made Missing No bee man pretend this is a character. Oh my gosh. You were fearing my power. So you trapped me into a space that was separate from the real world, didn't you? That's a good guess. But what I feared was not your power. I feared your memories, that you know the future. That's why even in this data, I left out one of the worlds with the 7 pure hearts. Knowing what will happen in the future, I feared you would bring the events back with you and cause some trouble. But you already said that the events are immutable. Why am I arguing with this stupid game? So what do you plan to do now? Do you plan to keep me cooped up in this data world? You mean this date world? This date escape? That wouldn't be wise. You need to go back to the time you came from. Why are you keeping me here in the first place, she asks. But I can't cross over time to the future from you, right? How? There is a way. Oh, she looks surprised by that information. Is that the end of it? Are we just into generic missions now? Let's see. Yeah, to 622. It's all random quests after that with no context. Yeah, that's all we got for now. Alright, so come back in a month and get more of that. Well, that was... I don't know, that ultimately wound up being not as illuminating as I was hoping it would be, I guess. I gotta be honest, I'm having a hard time processing most of the information that was just delivered to me, which is definitely interesting. The idea that Maleficent considered using time travel at this moment is just... Oh boy, that's a lot. That's a lot of stuff right there, man. Hold on a second, let's see. Princess, 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 no princess. And then after that we have Enchanted Dominion and Castle of Dreams to cover all the princesses of Heart other than Kyrie, I guess. So, did he say that's specifically why? Even in this data, I left out one of the worlds with the 7... You somehow... So whoever you are, you so thoroughly controlled what the Book of So this, I assume this isn't the Master, because if it was the Master, he would just be wearing the robe. Or have we gotten to the point where if we put a person in a robe there, the audience is actually going to assume their identity as opposed to going, oh, I don't know who this is. And you want to make it a surprise that this is the Master of Masters, so you've turned the Master into B-Man. This is just great. This is just awesome. What do the comments have to say about this? More questions than answers revealed. Yeah, I'm really not getting anything here that's useful to me. That thing about her making Enchanted Dominion is really troubling me. Where was that? Was that here? Yeah, no, it's right there. It's right there. Yeah. In the real world before the... Hold on. In the real world before the Keyblade War. That doesn't make any sense, because before the Keyblade War was all one world. No, you had yet to create the world. Okay, so yeah, so Maleficent somehow creates an entire planet? Or... Oh no, of course! Right! I have to remember, as we described beforehand, the mobile game doesn't take place before the Keyblade War, despite all appearances. It actually takes place after the Keyblade War in a hitherto as of yet unexplained dreamscape. So Maleficent infiltrated said dreamscape and created the digital version using the Book of Prophecies of Enchanted Dominion to the end of trying to change the past of a computer simulation. We're done for the we're done. We're done for the night. That was rather droll. How dull, Maleficent says. How dull indeed. We're done. That was it. Tune in next time. Goodness gracious. Okay, we're going to talk about this whole update a little bit more because I admit there were a couple of things that I didn't completely understand upon initially watching it that were cleared up for me upon a rewatch, and also by, naturally, the Kingdom Hearts fan community coming together to rack its collective brain and try and figure out what was happening. So we're here on this Reddit page just because I have been too busy writing anything down on this myself, but some other people have been more than kind enough to try and sort these things out for themselves. Or I guess organize them and lay them out for the rest of us. One of the main things was at the very end I talked about Maleficent making the data. Well, it's a weird thing where Mr. Bees says that was before you made the Enchanted Dominion, but the implication, but she couldn't have made it because the Master of Masters specifically made it to allow so that Maleficent would travel back to that point. So he claims that Maleficent made it, also claims that the Master of Masters made it, then claims that all of these worlds were created specifically because of the absence of the Master of Masters and the Foretellers, which is why I initially thought that they must have been built by somebody else, but in actuality, it seems like the Master built them. But then Mr. Bees says that was why I didn't make the world for one of the princesses to stop you, Maleficent, from tampering with the timeline. So maybe Bees is multiple people. Maybe Bees is the Master and Maleficent and Bees. Many questions. Many questions indeed. Though it's always worth remembering that we are, in fact, watching a fan translation of these things, so it's possible that something is getting lost somewhere. Not that Everglow hasn't done remarkable work with his translations in the past. For the most part, they've been spot on. I am simply observing that there are conflicting statements within this little story update. And that's really the only way that I can account for them is just by assuming that some kind of error happened somewhere. But oh well, you never can tell with Bees. Anyway, so Monster Sora here on Reddit, thank you very much, sir, for putting together this fantastic little summary of events. Says, okay, wait, hold up. I need to make sure I've got this all down. So Chi took place up to a certain point, then the Keyblade War happened, and the remaining surviving Dandelions, including the player, were sent to the Realm of Sleep when the war was over. This is where things initially start to... Right away, things are confusing for me, because it's like, now we're saying that they're in the Realm of Sleep, but also there are these data worlds in the Realm of Sleep, though we've previously conflicted the idea of whether or not Data can dream, quotation marks, and ultimately, the distinction between the Realm of Sleep and Data worlds, it's like, why is... Just from a writer's standpoint, why one, not the other? Like, why not just put them in the Matrix? Why put them in the Sleeping Realm and then also incorporate Data stuff? It just... I'm not talking about from a world-building standpoint or what does or doesn't make sense. I'm just talking about from a writing standpoint. Why are we introducing multiple types of, like, lesser worlds into this equation? But anyway... the Disney worlds that the player traveled to prior to the war were just projections. We've talked about this previously. Blah, 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 blah. Union Chi picks up when the player visits the Disney worlds up to and after the point of the war from Chi. They skip over the entire war arc, since the Dandelion leaders, Skuld and Ephemer and Brain and all them, made sure that these tragic memories were overwritten and forgotten while they rebuilt the world on the outside. This is another area where I start to have major problems with the entire premise of this story, which is like, okay, number one, what could you possibly hope to gain from this? Dandelions / Master of Masters / Foreteller / whoever set forth the instructions for Skuld and Ephemer and Pals to do this. Surely the Dandelions who refused to fight should take that knowledge of tragedy forward and learn from it. We learn from our mistakes. When we erase history, when we don't let people know what happened, that increases the risk of bad things happening again. That's why we have museums. That's why we have history classes, to teach people about the bad things in hopes that they are not perpetrated a second time. So I don't know why they would put these people through the exact same scenario that produced a war and just forcefully remove the war and hope that these people would learn the lesson. So that's major issue number one. Like, you already have the Dandelions are good guys who chose not to fight. So it's not like these people need to be brainwashed, but whatever. Secondly, then who are you saying that every single person in Union Cross is one of the Dandelions? That doesn't make sense. Surely there would have to be some other people in there. I guess those are dream versions of other people, but I will point out that in Dream Drop Distance, we did not encounter, like, fake people. We encountered people who were trapped in the realm of sleep. So if we're introducing the idea that the dream world can essentially project hundreds of new people into existence, the other Keyblade wielders who died in the war, who are now just here hanging out, that's a new realm of sleep power that was hitherto unintroduced. Then we return to the new Foretellers, who are all hanging out outside of the realm of sleep, quote unquote, recreating the world after the war. Okay. I'm left with many questions. Originally, we thought that the Keyblade War was so big and bad that it basically caused everything to blow up. However, the innocence of the surviving children who did not participate in this selfish war of adults provided the power necessary to bring the world back, albeit in a fractured state. Union Chi, Kai, whatever, completely changes the context of this and makes the people who participated in the war children, as well as the people who didn't participate in the war. They're all teenagers. So teenagers are evil and also good. The entire, idea of the selfish people destroying the world in pursuit of, they weren't satisfied with the paradise that they were living in, so they became selfish and started hoarding the light to themselves, but unselfish, uncorrupted children brought things back, instead becomes a bunch of idiots who were tricked into fighting by themselves, and some other people who weren't as stupid abstained. And that's basically it. That's basically where we're at. Which really, really messes up the entire, theming of what was present in the original fairy tale, but that's neither here nor there. Now we're left with, okay, the war wasn't really so awesome that it blew up everything. These folks just went out to the desert and fought each other, and that was it. Like, in Birth by Sleep, we see remnants of, what looked like a battle from Avengers Infinity War, with, mountains being torn apart, and massive impact craters, like a Dragon Ball Z fight went down or something. And then in Chi, it's just a bunch of normies fought each other, and there were 5 guys who were pretty powerful who barely even participated, who weren't strong enough to wipe the floor with just some random guy who could not even make a dent in their health bars, or I guess they were just too nice to do it. I don't know. And so now the new Union leaders, Skuld and Ephemer and Brain, they're in the realm of light, but we see them in the Keyblade graveyard, and then we see them, dropped something. Then we see them back in the Foretellers' old hangout. So it's still around. What is the nature of the world right now? Is it still one and just a lot of people died? Where are all the other people? Surely all the worlds were together, so there should be like a bunch of anthropomorphic animals off in that direction, and a world of talking cars in that direction, and talking bears and lions and elephants in that direction. Maybe some spacefarers who are gonna make a bunch of experimental aliens over in that direction. I don't know. Like, instead it was just one town of a bunch of teenagers. Apparently, that was the whole world. It doesn't seem like the world was actually really that destroyed. Like, the castle is still good enough for them to be walking around inside of it, or is the implication that they themselves have gone down into the realm of sleep to conduct business within the version of the castle in the realm of sleep? That doesn't make any sense, since they're supposed to be in the realm of light, fixing the realm of light. But again, what are they even fixing it from? Because nothing really went all that bad. Nothing was really destroyed. They went and fought on an empty lot. And beyond that, the entire idea, they're recreating the world after the war. How? Have they acquired magical terraforming powers? Like, is there a console inside the castle that basically lets them manipulate the entire structure of the world like they're playing SimCity with no budget? Like, how are these 5 guys, burgers and fries, gonna recreate the entire planet? Planets. The entire realm of light. What are they doing? I don't understand what their goal is, other than make all of the people in the realm of sleep forget what happened so that it can happen again. My only real thought is perhaps, because this would be very Nomura, is to reveal that actually the war that we saw 3 years ago at the end of the browser game, or whenever that was now, that might have been 4 years ago now, that actually wasn't the real war. That was another war, and that the real Keyblade War, the actually devastating one, hasn't happened yet, and that's going to be how Union Kai ends. I doubt that we're going to go that direction, but you never know. Anyway, this whole game is stupid, but we still have 2 more paragraphs, I should say. But now in this new Union Chi story update, or Union Cross, we now know that the world Maleficent ended up traveling to at the end of Key is actually a data version of the Enchanted Dominion, not one from the past. Projection, sleeping, or otherwise. Since Riku stabbed her in Kingdom Hearts 1, Maleficent was able to harness the power of time travel, and she ended up going as far back in time as she could to restart. The data version of the Enchanted Dominion, since we see the player at the end of Kai, Chi, Cross, X, along with Maleficent, that means that all of the worlds we're seeing now in Union Cross are also data worlds, not projections. Are these data worlds in the realm of sleep, or are they data worlds hidden away in the realm of light, or in the realm between like Twilight Town or Traverse Town? This is actually, he touches upon something interesting here. Where are these data worlds? How did we get there? Where is the computer that stores them? While Kingdom Hearts has done some really wild stuff with the concept of data that really doesn't make sense, at the very least, there are 2 things that are required for it. Some manner of analysis and a vessel of some kind. Vexen has to fight Riku and study him to acquire enough data to make the Riku replica, and even then, the data has to be put into a replica, which is some kind of syntho clone or whatever. That's a Kim Possible reference, right? Syntho clone? That word just popped into my head. I'm pretty sure that's a Kim Possible reference. I didn't mean to do that. Some kind of weird bioengineered synthetic person, a replicant. Yeah, you know what? They're replicants. They're replicants. And then the data has to be put within that body. Xion and Riku Replica both fit within this. Then we have the Tron worlds, which are contained within a computer. And we have the Datascape, which is, again, contained within a computer based off of exhaustive information that Jiminy Cricket recorded. So where did these data worlds come from? What were they based on, and where are they being stored? We make a big point of saying, well, these can't be projections anymore because you need the foretellers or the master to draw projections out of the Book of Prophecy. However, someone still would have needed to acquire this data and place it somewhere. Well, the only person who could have acquired the data is the Master of Masters by reading the Book of Prophecy. I guess technically the foretellers could have done it too. But we say that the Master of Masters created the Enchanted Dominion specifically as a trap for Maleficent that we'll get back to in a second. So let's just assume that the Master of Masters did this and told, because as we know, we can basically backpedal anytime and reveal that the Master of Masters told Ava to do something at any point that we really want to, and just say, oh, he always told her to do that, it was always part of the plan. So let's say that he created a bunch of these data worlds and said, hey, Ava, after everything goes bad, you're going to give your followers the access to these to use in the sleeping realm to whatever. I don't care. Okay, so the Master of Masters made these data worlds. What did he put them on? Why are they in the sleeping realm? How do the dandelions who are contained within the sleeping realm get between the sleeping worlds and the data worlds? Where are they? How are they moving between them? What are they being stored on? This doesn't make sense even within Kingdom Hearts' context. I'm sure someone is going to say, oh, I'm sure they'll explain it eventually. That's not good enough. I once had somebody accuse me of, oh, he's so stupid, he's incapable of comprehending the lore of an unfinished series. And you, sir, are claiming that you are somehow capable of comprehending the lore of an unfinished series? If they haven't finished it and they haven't told you, like, what are you saying? Oh, you're too stupid to understand things that haven't been explained yet. Whatever. Anyway. The Master of Masters knew all along.
Well, I knew all along that you knew all along.
Did you just get here, son? I knew you knew I knew all along.
The Maleficent was going to travel back in time to rewrite her past defeat and try and access Kingdom Hearts with the Princesses of Heart again. In turn, he built data versions of all of the Disney worlds that are locked in their own unchangeable timelines that could be accessed after the Keyblade War took place. Necessary since the projections in the Book of Prophecies would no longer work after he and the foretellers were gone after the war. So everything now is just more data, but now Maleficent is stuck in the data world, and the only way for her to get back to her own time in the future is to access some sort of world that doesn't even exist yet, meaning it needs to be created, perhaps by the Dandelion leaders. Is this the same way that Ventus and Lariam end up in the future? My brain is just mush at this point. Okay, so this is where things get really weird for me. Obscuring the identity of B-Man is like a horrible mistake. I can't believe they did that. Like, all you're doing, like, here's the thing. There's no mystery and intrigue to any of this because we're just being told what happened. We could have had a potentially interesting story about, like, imagine, if you will, following a drama about, oh man, that's the Maleficent from the future, and she's back here trying to change the past, and we get to see, like, her perspective on, like, reflecting on the events of Kingdom Hearts 1, her ambitions of what she's going to do here, her planning and scheming and executing, and then her frustration as her plans fall apart. Instead, we are essentially lied to about what is really happening with Maleficent and the Enchanted Dominion missions, and then the entire story that Maleficent went through that a better writer could wring an entire book out of, probably, the idea of someone traveling back in time to try and change their past and failing to do so, we instead relegate to explaining everything that happened after it's already happened. Okay, but you're still trying to be mysterious by obscuring the identity of this person and what his plan is. There's no point in trying to be mysterious in this scene. The only purpose of this whole update is to educate the viewer on events that have already occurred. That's all we're doing here. So why are you bothered? Like, it's like, now that all we're doing is explaining stuff, we're just gonna force some air of mystery into this scene that is essentially just exposition. Because otherwise, I guess nothing interesting will be happening. Instead of just, writing drama and having things happen, depicting events, we're just going to explain things after they already happened and promise that something else will happen eventually. We'll probably skip that something else and return after the something else has already happened and explain what it was. That's the typical MO with these things. But this is where this entire idea of, so the Master of Masters knew Maleficent would travel back in time and rewrite her past defeat, and he built data versions of all the Disney worlds that were locked on their own unchangeable timelines. Okay, when the guy was like, oh, Maleficent, when Bees was like, oh, Maleficent, you fool, data is immutable, You never could have changed the past here. All I was thinking was like, okay, but you can't change the past with time travel anyway in Kingdom Hearts. It's one of the most important things they establish in Dream Drop Distance is you can time travel, but you cannot change past events. We're working on solid block time travel. The past is immutable. Time travel always happened, and time cannot be altered. There is one continuous timeline that cannot be changed. So the Master of Masters looks in his little... Let's pretend for a second that time travel can cause changes to the past, just for the sake of argument. Let's pretend that if you time travel in Kingdom Hearts, you actually can change the course of history. So the Master of Masters looks in his little book, and he sees, oh no, this lady, thousands of years in the future, is going to try and time travel back in time, and I care about this for some reason. In order to prevent her from changing the past, I am going to create a digital version of her in my time, so that when she attempts to go back to the past, she will actually wind up trapped in my simulation, and I will therefore prevent her from changing anything by locking her into a computer world that doesn't matter, where she can do whatever she wants, but it's just a computer world, so who cares? She can change things as much as she wants, but it's just a computer simulation. What actually happened is the Master of Masters looked forward into the future and saw himself creating a data world to stop Maleficent from time traveling, because he couldn't have looked forward into the future and seen Maleficent time traveling back in time to her own time and trying to change the past, because number one, that would have been completely ineffective. She couldn't have done anything. And number two, he couldn't have seen that because it never happened, because time is immutable and he always made the data world. So the Master of Masters didn't have a clever idea to prevent Maleficent from doing something nefarious. He just read the script and saw that he was supposed to create a data world to prevent Maleficent from doing nothing. So anyway, he does this. And for some reason, we feel the need to say, oh, but you can't change data either. Data is immutable. But I thought that also time travel was immutable. So it seems like all of this is like, this seems like the one realm where you would allow things to change, where you could actually do some interesting stuff with your narrative and write a version where Maleficent wins and she goes, haha, yes, I won. Wait a second. Something is off. Why am I seeing ones and zeros and bugs spilling out of things? Oh darn, I've been duped. I was in a data world the whole time. Rut-row, and I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for you darn kids. Instead of letting her go to the past that she couldn't change, they sent her to a computer that she couldn't change. So the Master of Masters did this, despite the fact that we insist that Maleficent made this world, and also we insist that Bees made this world, while Bees insists that the Master couldn't have made this world because it's not a projection, so I don't know what is real anymore. And I don't know how, if the Master made this world, the Dandelion Union leaders knew about them and knew to put the Dandelions into them. But that's neither here nor there. Where's the other bit that I wanted to look at? Yeah, okay. So somebody asked for an explanation. After Maleficent's death, she went back in time to her furthest past. This ended up being a data version of herself created by the Master of Masters to trap her in a world of data rather than allowing her to go to the past in the real world, which is why Enchanted Dominion wasn't in Chi. Okay. The worlds we went to in Chi were projections of the real world, look like the other worlds. Union across the worlds we go to are the data versions. The Book of Prophecies can't use anymore because foretellers are gone. Ha! So the events are as followed. Maleficent meets Xehanort and learns about the Keyblade, time travel, Princess of Heart, and Kingdom Hearts shortly before Birth by Sleep. Maleficent is stabbed by Riku Ansem in Kingdom Hearts and transforms into a dragon. That is what happened. However, hold on. It is defeated and her heart and body are set free thanks to said stabbing. This is where things get kind of weird. So this Keyblade has the power to unlock people's hearts. Allow me to demonstrate. And then Riku stabs her, right? Okay. Now the implication here was, oh, her heart is being overrun by the darkness. She screams, yes, this power! And then she transforms into the dragon, right? Okay. Then she just dies. We just stab her. There was no, like... when Sora stabbed himself, immediately the hearts were ejected from his body, presumably because I always just assumed because he had either A, he had a different intent from when Riku stabbed Maleficent, and he did it in a different way, or maybe Maleficent just used the darkness that overran her, or Sora succumbed to it. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. I never really concerned myself with the semantics of that sword because they don't matter. They fulfill that sword fulfills its purposes in the scenes that it's involved in. Then in Birth by Sleep, Maleficent can just go dragon form anyway. I thought that was a clever excuse for the dragon within Kingdom Hearts' canonicity, but apparently she can just do that anyway. What is confusing is that when she was stabbed, that really should have been the moment that she time traveled, right? That should have been the moment that her heart was separated from her body, because later, Sora and Donald and Goofy and Beast just killed her. They didn't separate her body, her heart from anything. They just killed her. So maybe that dragon Maleficent was actually her nobody, which should mean that it died before her Heartless, so it should have been impossible for her to return in Kingdom Hearts 2, but that's neither here nor there. So whatever, Maleficent travels back in time. We're just going to pretend that the semantics don't matter, even though they do, because semantics are the most important thing in Kingdom Hearts now, because that's literally all that the writers care about. Anyway, so she goes back in time as far as she can to try and change the past. I don't know why she would do this, because if we look back at how the events went down in Birth by Sleep, she was basically ultimately pleased with them. She ends that mocking Aqua, not going, darn you, Aqua, you thwarted me. And the events of the movie, the movie events of Sleeping Beauty didn't matter because she still got Aurora anyway, and she got the next 6 princesses anyway. Really, going as far back in time as she could shouldn't matter. She should want to go a couple weeks back in time to prevent Sora, Donald, and Goofy from getting to Hollow Bastion or whatever. Or I don't know, maybe this Maleficent is actually the Angelina Jolie Maleficent, and she wanted to... That's who played her in Maleficent, right? I never actually watched the movie, but I read the plot synopsis. Maybe she wants to go back in time to prevent her wings from getting cut off or whatever, if I'm remembering correctly. Like I said, I read the plot synopsis once. Some evil human that she fell in love with cut her wings off or something. I don't remember. Maybe she wanted to change that. Anyway... So she travels as far back in time as she can and is shocked to find herself in her middle-aged body anyway, instead of being a young child. Oops! So really, she should have been clued into the fact that she was in some kind of trap immediately, but whatever. I guess she's just a dumbass. Goes to the earliest version of herself, and it's a data world created by the Master of Masters, so she's trapped in a data version of a world. I don't know why she can't get out of it. If she's I guess... Young Xehanort says something about you can't travel forward in time in Dream Drop Distance, but he says that as he sits there having traveled forward in time, or... Oh no, once you go back, you can only travel forward from your initial point of travel. Heartless, the disembodied heart Ansem in the cloak traveled forward in time, didn't he? With the regular... No, he had to... Whatever, it doesn't matter. Whatever, she's trapped, who cares? The data worlds can't be rewritten, whatever. That doesn't make any sense, because literally the only time that we've been to data worlds was in Recoded, and they were rewritten. They were vastly different from how they originally went, but that's fine. Darkness wants her to return to the present without knowing the last princess's world, so she can't use the memories she learns from that world in the future. Number one, Dream Drop made a big deal out of not remembering things that you get during your time travel excursions, but I guess maybe the initial person who time travels can remember it. If you bring other people along as passengers, they don't remember it maybe. I don't know, whatever. The main thing here is that she already knew who the other princess was, didn't she? When I played Kingdom Hearts 1... I assumed that Maleficent had basically figured out who Kairi was, because why else would she be helping Riku get Kairi? I get it, she's bribing Riku to do what she wants, right? That would make sense initially, but then why does she have Kairi in the special glass chamber hanging around in her big magical room saying, "Oh, purest of hearts, reveal to me the keyhole," when she doesn't even have the 7th one? I really assumed that she knew, or at least that she suspected. So it's not like the Master's actually preventing her from learning anything by not including Radiant Garden in the simulation. I assumed that she'd figured it out. And even if she hadn't figured it out there, she can just return to the future and find out very easily by just talking to the people who were there. Sora would totally tell her he's stupid. He would just assume that she knows if she tried to bluff her way into knowing who the princesses were. And apparently Ansem the Wise somehow knows, or I guess, I don't know, I don't know if it was Ansem the Wise who set up the password that was all 7 princesses, or if it was Xehanort's Heartless / Labcoat Xehanort / whatever. Who cares? They shouldn't have known either. I guess they used time travel more effectively than Maleficent. This whole thing is a sham. Oh, this whole thing is just a mess. I think the thing that I often fail to appropriately characterize as I talk about Kingdom Hearts is where the real issues come from. Like, when I went on my big rant about the usage of characters in Dream Drop Distance, a lot of people said, yeah, this is similar to why I don't like The Last Jedi, the mistreatment of characters. And see, the reason that I have a problem with the treatment of characters in this series and why I didn't really mind what was done to Luke in The Last Jedi is because the real issue with the characters in Kingdom Hearts, is that they haven't they've changed them and haven't replaced it with anything. Like, at the very least, I don't mind so much when authors change characters or change their traits if they do it to put them through an interesting new story. Because ultimately most characters are written to be used in one story, and franchise storytelling is really difficult because once you have your character learn one lesson, you have to try and figure out what they learn next. And usually a character is specifically built to learn one lesson. So it doesn't leave you with a lot of room, which is why the Back to the Future sequels kind of have to establish a little bit out of nowhere that Marty is a chicken and can't, not that he's a chicken, that he hates being called a coward and a chicken. And if somebody calls him a coward, he won't back down from a dare, regardless of its context. That isn't really super present in the first Back to the Future film, and they have to play it up really intensely in the second one so it can build to something in the third. Shrek 2, one of the greatest sequels ever made, manages to take building blocks that were left over from Shrek's arc in the first film and make something else out of it, in a way that feels natural and logical from his arc in the first movie. But it's really hard to do this kind of stuff. It's really hard to take an existing character and push them in a new direction. So the problem that I have is not changing a character so they can have a new adventure. Like, if you give me a good story with the character, as long as you give me some kind of reason for them acting the way that they're acting, I can usually deal with it. My real problem with the fact that they've changed all these Kingdom Hearts characters to be one-note stupid assholes is that they've done that in service of nothing, in service of all of them standing around giving exposition to one another about magic that doesn't make any sense and how eventually the good guys are going to punch the bad guys. I think that's really the biggest problem with Dream Drop Distance is like that story has nothing going on. It is the most basic story. It is just a story about bad guys and good guys, and the good guys and bad guys want to punch each other. And that would have been fine if they'd punched each other at the end. But they don't. It's a 20 to 30 hour commercial for when get ready for the good guys and bad guys to punch each other next time. And so when they change up all of the characters to be nothing, bland, one-note characters that are in violation of their previously established stuff from the other games, it bothers me because it's in service of nothing. When Luke turns into a grumpy old man in The Last Jedi, it's like, well, whether or not you like the story that's being told in that movie, at the very least, the change was made for the specific purpose of facilitating the story that is being told. Whereas with this, oh man, Maleficent has traveled back in time, and she's talking with bees to change the past. We don't explain why Maleficent wanted to change the past, what her plans were to change the past, what her end game was, what she was going to do after she changed it, how she felt about any of this. We just wanted to explain how she did it. We just wanted to explain the logistics of what she did. It's so boring. If this twist about, a thing in Kingdom Hearts 1, a game that came out 15 years ago, here's some new important emotional context behind what the characters were doing that's really interesting, I wouldn't even mind the retconny nature of this kind of stuff so much. But all it is, hey, here's a new factoid, a new plot point, a new piece of data to plug into your Excel spreadsheet that has become Kingdom Hearts, because that's all it is now. That's where my real problems with all this stuff come in, I think. It's just like, you know, tell a story. If this game had decided it wanted to tell a weird story about Maleficent time traveling and trying to change her fate, yeah, sure, I would have watched that. But I didn't get to watch it. They skipped it. They literally skipped it to tell me about how the Master can't create things from the Book of Prophecies anymore because he isn't around. So instead, the world that you're in is Data, to stop you from changing the past that you can't change by taking you to another past that you also can't change. And why am I still here? Oh, what a waste of everybody's time. That's it. What a waste of everyone's time. A waste of Maleficent's time, a waste of Bee's time, and a waste of our time.